Our next guest is Jen Miller. She is the CEO of Phoenix Workforce Inc., a nonprofit that provides IT training, career coaching, and job placement. She has an unwavering passion for life and people and has a genuine interest in technology and how it can improve and enhance the human experience. Jen, welcome to Titans Up today.
Thanks, Jacob. Super excited to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
You are very welcome. Now, first things first, you're known as Jen the General Miller. Where does this come from? What is it all about?
So several years ago now, it feels almost like a different lifetime, but I spent a few years working for Apple, working in one of their retail stores, leading a team of a little over 100 individuals down in Florida. Some of the best years of my life. Love those guys. We used to affectionately call it the fruit stand, but there was always an endless list of things to do. And my name just evolved from Jen Miller to J Mills to the General because I just got things done. And people knew if they asked me to do something, it would get taken care of. And the team really appreciated that. So I just got affectionately called the General.
That's great. And a very unique backstory there. One question that comes up about that is, what are some principles you learned at Apple working within the culture that have helped shape your business life today?
That's a great question, Jay. But I would say it really helped me understand that our clientele was typically older retirees since they were down in Southern Florida, and having patience to help someone through their technological learning journey was really crucial and important. A lot of these folks were CEOs or CTOs or CIOs or VPs and retired, never had to touch a device. They had people to do that for them, but they were excited to learn how to use this technology to connect with their friends and family and do other work that they may have. And it was fun to be able to explain to them how the cloud works and other concepts that they just really had no need to know before. So being patient, being able to understand the basics and explain them to a layman without sounding condescending or sounding like a jerk was a really critical skill. And that has helped me work well with other leaders, other candidates, and the like, just to apply things so that everybody's on the same page and doesn't feel awkward about not knowing something. There's nothing worse than wanting to ask a question, but feeling foolish for asking it and then going away not learning what you were questioning about. Google is great, but it only goes so far, right? And you're not sure if you can quite trust that, but having a person in front of you who welcomes your questions and encourages you to ask them, I think is super important. So that has definitely stuck with me.
So how do individuals, people in relationships or business leaders create that culture where people feel invited and encouraged to ask questions and to learn openly?
Also, a great follow-up question. I would say that if they're given time to ask those questions and encouraged to do, a lot of times adult learners, we hold ourselves back from asking because we want to appear knowledgeable and confident, right? That's how we're taught that we need to act in business. But there's a vulnerability that I think when you're in an educational setting that we need to encourage. And I think it's just as simple as letting people know, hey, I've been in a classroom as an adult, and it can be a little uncomfortable to ask a question. I really want to encourage any question. There's no silly question. You're here to learn. This is your time to learn. Make it your own. Whatever you want to know about, I will find the answer. And if I don't know, I will find someone or a means to answer it for you. And I think if you just are open and genuine when you express that, people tend to let their guard down a little bit. And also, you're supportive when they do ask a question and respectful of them asking it.
What are the principles therein that you experienced or utilized that allowed you to have the open-mindedness and the openness to experience or awareness that brought that about? Because I believe that everyone can have and find great insights in their life as long as they just become more aware or are willing to access them. Or what are some of those things that you've experienced that have helped you achieve an expansion of your awareness?
Yeah, there's just a couple of really key ones that at times were a little painful to learn, but once I was able to accept them, it's very liberating. So I have always been a seeker in my life of truth, of meaning, of what is my purpose here. And I was also really addicted to people pleasing. I was always trying to serve everyone else at the expense of myself. And then wondering why I was constantly depleted and disappointed. I looked to the world for my own identity, for my own measure of worth, when all along it was inside of me. When I realized that I cannot control what anyone else does or thinks or how they feel, the only thing that I am responsible for is the way I feel and the way that I think and the actions that I take. That's incredibly powerful. It takes so much pressure off of us to try to be just a certain way and do just a certain thing. And it really empowers us to truly embrace who we are. And that really started me on a journey of self-discovery. And I actually went to school and became a certified astrologer. Crazy enough, I thought it was all woo-woo and craziness. But the more I learned, the more it helped me accept myself for who I am, all my quirks, strengths, and weaknesses. And then in business, I could apply that to say, okay, I know that maybe a long attention span isn't my strength. So I break up my work into shorter blocks. I do these little tricks and things and adjust my schedule to
Hmm.
play to my strengths. And I may have other people around me who have in areas that aren't mine. And that's perfectly fine. That doesn't mean that I'm weak or not well rounded. It means I'm a realist and I don't have to be good at everything. And I found the more I embrace that, the more people come into my life that have exactly what I need at exactly the right time. It's a beautiful thing. And there's joy again in the journey of life. And life feels like an adventure every morning when I wake up instead of a dread. Oh, I have to go and do this. Oh, I got to work for myself again. Oh, I'm excited. Who am I going to meet today? What's going to happen? I can't wait.
So
So
the
just
first
those
step is
principles of discovery and taking those eyes and putting them inward
exactly.
um, to
Yes.
know yourself. Those were a couple of really powerful things that have changed my life and changed me to brought me home to myself, I guess is a good way to describe it.
And thank you for recapping there, because that was the first point that I caught is switching from the external to the internal.
Yes.
And when you're doing that, essentially you're saying you're more apt to ask yourself questions, to make your own joy, to go your own path. Is that what you've experienced?
Absolutely. It's not something where you're feeling you're taking a huge risk or you're feeling pressured. Things develop naturally. And that isn't to say that you don't have to take action. You certainly have to show up, get the work done, but it's the energy to do it is naturally there. Are there days I'm tired? Absolutely. If I'm up working all night and trying to get a project done, absolutely, I'm going to be tired. But it's not the same sort of, oh, I need a few days to recover. I'm so depleted and drained energetically. Nope, I need a good night's rest and a good meal and I'm ready to go. And I think that we as a society just see success in all the wrong ways. It isn't for me and for a lot of people out there about just attaining a certain amount of wealth or a certain status or a certain title. As we progress and we align ourselves with what this calling is all about, and we slowly move this ideal kind of forward, I think that's when we are truly successful, when we're aligning who we are and what we do, how we feel, and what we think with truly what our purpose is. There is just a wholeness that comes together. Now, I'm not like in nirvana and meditating 24/7 and talking to Buddha, but there is a sense of Zen and calmness and peace. It's hard to throw me off that, but it does happen. But you just feel more whole. And it doesn't feel that I'm always searching for something to fill that, if that makes sense.
And to go on, you mentioned the ideal. What is the worthy ideal that you're pursuing? And it's your assertion and that success is the progressive realization of a worthy ideal. So what is that ideal you're pursuing?
Yes.
And what does that
And
mean for somebody who wants to adopt that philosophy for themselves?
sure. Oh, that is not my quote. That is a very wise gentleman.
Earl
But
Nightingale.
yeah,
As I was writing and preparing for this, there's Earl who said that
yes.
and popularized it, but let's be honest, that probably has
Many iterations, right?
years and years.
For me, what I adopted was if I am giving each day my all, and the ideal that I hold in my mind and in my heart and in my soul that aligns with this path as my goal, and I do one thing to move that forward, I would feel that day is successful. if I am able to connect with myself and stay in this alignment as much as I can. I'm only human. I'm just a human woman. So I have moments where I'm crazy too. But if I can make that my focus and maintain the integrity that I have with myself, it's incredibly hard to do everything you say you're going to do to yourself in your own mind. Try it for a day. It's very challenging. You'll be much more mindful of the promises you make to yourself. But if I can just simply put forth my best effort and take small steps to move that ideal forward and make this business come more and more in alignment and to fruition, and connect with people and make a difference in their lives and allow them to make a difference in mine, that to me is success. The money, the stuff, the security, everything else will come, right? When you are ready to receive it. And we're all ready to receive it, right? We're all stressed by it. But it really has to be the purpose for the greater collective and the greater good. It sounds so crazy when I say it, but I really think that the more people that adopt these sort of philosophies and principles and take responsibility for the way that they think and they feel, just those two things right there, that'll help raise this collective vibration, as they say, and move us beyond the grind of the day to day. And so much suffering, I think, can truly be alleviated, and much, much more progress towards many of the daunting problems that face the world, I think, could be achieved. So it's just my small part, one step at a time, to be responsible for myself and move forward just a little bit and let go of the past. And I'm here today, right? That's all I have is right now. I don't have tomorrow, and yesterday is gone. All I have is this moment right now. We just don't know what else is going to happen. So if I'm using this moment to its greatest purpose, that to me is success.
Let that one sink in for everybody. It's very powerful.
Boom, mic drop.
Yeah, exactly. For its fullest experience, then that is success. That's really great. And I think one thing there that is intriguing and exciting is this
Demystification. I don't know.
yeah, of the concept of energy. You mentioned the collective vibration. I think it's really funny that we have to say it. A lot of people say it in a certain way, energy and vibration, but in reality, that is the fabric of the existence itself.
We're all fast moving electrons. And that's a fact. There's just no denying it. We know what protons, neutrons, and electrons are. That's all we're made up of. Simply stick together and form this being. And we're all just moving through all of this energy, right? So it attracts like. We have a similar mindset, right? And believe some of the same things. I think that's what attracted us together. And through the conversation, we're like, wow, that's awesome. This is a message that should be with more and more people. And I think just being straight up honest about the journey. Hey, I have had nothing but ups and downs all my life and been my biggest really obstacle through my whole life. I can't blame anyone else. I'm responsible for me. So taking that on has helped free me. And I'm more than happy to share my story with folks if it helps them in any way. We're not alone. We are all connected in some way, shape, or form.
100%.
And that I find comforting and terrifying all at the same time. I just need to grab a drink. Sorry.
Totally okay. And to where we like to always root it back to this as well, as you were speaking, is the element of the word where it begins is the thinking. How the thinking is the origin of everything else. So to really bring it to a level that everyone can apply is improving the quality of your thinking. You're improving the quality of your living and everything else therein, the way you experience your life, the way you relate with others, and interact with others.
If you think about it, everything that you see and touch was once a thought in someone's mind. It manifested itself into a physical reality in one way, shape, or form through a process. That thought probably went onto paper, went onto computer, went into design, and then was manufactured. Our brains work just like that on a day-to-day level, right? What we think is the quality of our life. It is what we're all about. If we think, and I was very guilty of this for many years, negative thoughts about myself, or ourselves, that is how other people perceive you. That essence, that vibration, that energy is what you exude. It is what you then attract. You may not want it, but because your thoughts and all of your energy goes towards, that's what you're bringing back into yourself. Now, I started with just some simple words. I literally stood in front of a mirror and giggling and snickering made myself say, "I love you, Jen," hundreds of times. I wrote notes on the mirror to myself, post-its, a love letter. It was kooky, but it did help break down some of those barriers of feeling silly about it. And then getting more serious about it. What are the things that I like about myself? What have I done? We all know what our opportunities are, but we don't celebrate the good stuff about ourselves because we feel it's arrogant or, nah, that's not really true, or I should be humble, or it's different to acknowledge your strengths than be braggadocious about them. And I think it's perfectly fine and healthy to recognize all the good about yourself.
And as part of acknowledging the good about yourself, how else can you acknowledge the good in others if you don't acknowledge the good in yourself?
That's correct. It's super important. There's a trend now with gratitude. It's a hot button word, right? Or a buzzword. And I thought, I don't know, that kind of seems silly. But I listened to a lot of folks' ideas about gratitude journals, things like that. And there was one that really resonated with me. And it was a daily practice of writing 1 to 3 things that you're grateful for, and then specifically saying why and how it impacted your life and another. So it goes much deeper than, hey, I'm super grateful for my family, my friends, my job, my home. That's great. And we are grateful for those things, or we may be. But, oh, I was really grateful for my ability today to have a conversation and explain things that were maybe a little tricky to explain, but because I've really given a lot of thought, worked hard at it, hopefully someone else will be able to understand and it may help them. That's very different than just a sugar high of kind of that great job, or I love this, or thank you for that. And that depth has helped me really see some of the good things that I have to offer and how it impacts my life and potentially the lives of others. So that was something that really resonated with me about a gratitude practice.
Very much. And I can second that. I'm grateful for, because when COVID first hit, I was actually working at a job before this, before starting Manuka. And we actually lost, and it was actually in the staffing industry. We lost, I think, 60 or 70% of our clients in a matter of 2 days. But then I went home and was just thinking about all these things. And I laid on the couch and put my hands on my heart, put some music on, and just went for about an hour of I'm grateful for, because what I realized, and again, I'd never done this before, and it was just totally natural. I just knew that's what I needed to do. And it's those moments of uncertainty or calamity that can bring out those things. But what I realized was you're connecting the emotional to the logical.
Exactly.
So you're really acknowledging that full part of what really drives human behavior. There's the emotional, there's also the logical.
Exactly.
Acknowledge why those things occur. And then, so that was about a Friday, I think it was. And then Monday over there, and starting the next Monday and for the next, let's say 2 months, we were bringing on more clients than ever. And I really partly attribute it to the energy that I came back into, or the mindset that I came back into that experience, and said, hey,
yeah, guys, we got to change our mindset. Like, it really comes down to what you're thinking and what you're feeling. Those are the 2 things that we are solely responsible for, and they are incredibly difficult, powerful, challenging, rewarding. They're all the full spectrum of descriptive words you can use, but it's our responsibility. Can just imagine if a larger percentage of the world adopts that, leaves everything else behind and just says, all right, I'm going to think about, or I'm going to focus on what I think and how I feel. I accept that about myself. I accept responsibility for that. That's a huge change, right? There's no more finger pointing. There's no more judgment. There's no more blame game. It would change a lot. Even just sitting talking with you about it now, and it inspires me to keep going on this journey. The road gets rough, and it's been rough, but it's all coming around. It really is. And it's funny, I'm getting married and super excited about that. And
Very exciting. Congratulations.
thank you. Thank you. He was delivered right to my door. He really was. I thought about what I wanted in a partner. I thought about what it would feel like to be with this person. And I thought about, what am I going to be able to give? And what's our relationship going to be like? What's that going to feel like? And I wrote it all out, and I meditated on it. Imagine what it would be like to put my head on his shoulder, and just resonated with that feeling for a couple of days. And then I didn't think about it anymore after that. I went about my life, put that away. And lo and behold, here in Texas, we had a deep freeze that caused my kitchen pipes to burst in 4 places. I flooded my whole condo, 1,000 square feet, just a tiny little place.
Wow.
Everything got ruined. But I just laughed. It was just comical at that point. I've got water coming up to my ankles, and I'm going, oh my God, please don't let me get electrocuted. This would be awful. So I'm pulling up and trying to shut the power off and do all this. And we finally got the water shut off. And the plumber who actually showed up, and thank goodness that he came when he did, recommended my fiance, soon to be husband's company. And I gave him a call. And lo and behold, he said he knew it as soon as he heard my voice. I met him a few days later, and now it's been almost 2 years, and we're getting married. He's completely the opposite of me, but I will tell you, when I put my head on his chest, it feels exactly that same feeling. And the same qualities that I put on that list are things that he has. It was truly amazing, and we balance each other out perfectly. Don't get me wrong, we still argue, we still fight, but it's a learning, right? It challenges my communication abilities. He is challenged by my, hey, stop, let's think about this first. And we really do work in perfect harmony with each other. It's quite amazing.
The magic in every moment and every experience can become that pathway, the doorway to a better experience.
Absolutely. If you just look for it, even the worst things that happen in your life are things to be grateful for. I've been blessed to be writing a book about a few of those experiences. And it isn't about, oh, it was me, I'm a victim. Nope. Here's the decisions that I made that led me to that moment. Here's why I'm grateful that it happened and what I've learned from it. Man, it was tough when it was going through it. But hindsight is certainly 2020, and just taking the responsibility of how it all unfolded and taking a moment to learn from it is really powerful. And I find I've broken some of those same behavior patterns. We always end up dating the same type of person over and over. And at least for me, that was a pattern of behavior for me. And I was able to see why that was happening and break that cycle. And man, does that feel good. That feels like clearing out so much karma. It's like amazing, right? And it just excites me to keep going on that process. What else can I learn? What else can I do? What else can I make better? And I don't know, I just find it very energizing, and it brings a lot of joy to my life. So I've been blessed in that way.
So has your path of entrepreneurship supported that and really brought you more opportunities for growth and self-knowledge and learning? It's opened your mind, or?
Oh, yes, absolutely. Every time I fall on my face, I'm like, oh my gosh, I learned a ton. It's less expensive than an MBA, but not too much. I'm just kidding. It really has taught me a lot about my work habits, how I need to adapt and change based on my own personal strengths or opportunities, things that I can do to stay better organized or motivate myself. Or, God, I'm just one of those people who does not like to ask for help. And I have been humbly asking for help and welcoming it, and not feeling bad about myself for not knowing how to do X, Y, or Z, or needing a little bit of assistance here, there, or everywhere. And I've learned so much more that way by reaching out to people, asking questions. And I'll tell you, really 9 times out of 10, people are happy to help you. It helps them feel like they have purpose and something to give. And it's a wonderful experience to have that kind of give and take. And when you do have the gift of having someone help you or answer your questions or just be there as a mentor or an ear to listen, I just found it so important to say, and what can I do for you? It means so much to the person who's just given up their time, treasure, or talent to you, just to know that they're appreciated and respected, to say, even if you know, what am I going to do for this powerful person, whoever they are, but just to offer, you just never know. You just never know. And I found so many people are pleasantly surprised by just reciprocating that simple question and thanking them for their time. It's meant a lot.
There's been a lot of powerful takeaways here already, and as well for anybody and everybody listening. Now, to focus on your business deeper, where does the name Phoenix Workforce originate from?
So a lot of people think it's Phoenix, Arizona, a great place, but not the focus of my business. I've had many iterations of career paths in my life so far, and I welcome them all. And the Phoenix is about the mythical bird who rises from the ashes to grow, only to burst into flames, come crashing down, and do it all over again. I used to be afraid of the crash and burn, but I always say if you're going to fail spectacularly, really go for it. When you hold back and you just are so scared to make a mistake, you can't. You just got to relax and breathe and just go with it. 10 years of competitive gymnastics taught me that every time you hesitate, that's really when you can get hurt. In business, it's really no different. You want to make a educated guess, right? Or something based on some facts, figures, and a plan. But when you take that risk and you go for it, just go for it unapologetically. There's no shame in trying to sell your service or your product in a way that you feel is best, right? That's my advice. Take the leap of faith, invest in yourself. If you have an idea and you're passionate about something, think you can go the distance, do some research, ask some questions, talk to some folks who are either in an industry or a similar industry, or if you are a groundbreaker and have an idea that's not out there anywhere, talk to some folks who have worked in startups or had the experience of taking something brand new and building it into something. But trust yourself, trust your gut, follow your intuition. It will never steer you wrong.
And so to go deeper on that specifically for somebody listening who's wanted to start a business forever, or is maybe started one in the past and didn't exactly get the result they wanted, or maybe someone who has and they're trying to start another one and they're in this mode of trying to make a decision. What was that moment where you decided to start Phoenix Workforce, the thinking you were going through, and then ultimately the decision that resulted in that to culminate, the principles that you just mentioned into an actual life experience?
Sure. So I was working at a staffing agency and doing business development, and I wasn't feeling that passion every day. I told myself I tried to. I wasn't unsuccessful. I made over 6 figures. It did more than just pay the bills. It was fine, great, no problem. But I wasn't fulfilled in a way that I thought that I could be. I certainly wasn't using all my gifts and talents at that moment. And I missed really leading a team and just having the depth and touching people's lives that I wanted to on more of a spiritual basis. So I thought, well, if I don't do this, what do I do? I don't want to go back to college. I just didn't know. So I started looking at the market saying, okay, it's probably got to be something to do with technology, but I'm not a coder. I probably could be, but I don't know. It just seemed very daunting to learn a whole new language in my mid 40s. And I thought, okay, no, we're not going to do that. Let's think about where we get excited. All right, I do love technology. Working at Apple really put that spark in me. I thought, okay, helping people bridge the gap between how they use technology, how they learn about technology, and the jobs that they can have. Okay, that's got to be something. So I dug a little bit deeper, and I got into some research about cybersecurity. And I started looking at the thousands and thousands of jobs that were open and went unfilled for a long time because we just didn't have the workforce out there. So I started talking to industry leaders. I would reach out to people on LinkedIn. I would find them through any means that I could, whether it was Facebook or LinkedIn or Instagram or wherever, just started stalking people and reaching out to them and just asking for, hey, if you have 5 minutes, I have a business idea, but I really want to hear your thoughts before I go forward. And I had many of those conversations with chief human resources officers, chief technology officers, chief information security officers, VPs, directors, managers, and they all were really saying the same thing. We don't have the bodies to fill the seats. We don't know where they're going to come from. The bad actors and all of the stuff that comes crashing down on us every day, every moment of every day, there are thousands and thousands of pings, people trying to get into their network, steal the information, corrupt it, do all these terrible things, steal our ideas. And they just didn't know, what are we going to do? We just don't know. COVID hit, and that freed up the walls of the traditional human resources think tank. The only, I should say, really one of the only things that actually was good that came out of COVID was the fact that those walls were just broken down. People were able to work remote. And now I know there's a little bit of a pull back in, but I don't think we're ever going to be able to put that genie totally back in the box, at least in certain specialized skill sets like cybersecurity, because the workforce doesn't exist yet and the need is so great. So after doing all that research for about a year or so, I decided that I was going to take that leap, that I could build something based on a substantial market need with a skill set that I have an understanding of, with a group of enterprise level businesses that I had been working with, knew of, or had been introduced to. And I had the idea of, all right, we always would say the joke, if I could just grow Java developers on a tree, I could retire and be a millionaire. Why couldn't I grow my own cybersecurity workforce? What do you mean, Jen? That sounds crazy. Create an educational platform that's accessible for folks, but let's target a group of individuals who are not represented in IT primarily, but especially in cybersecurity. This is nobody's fault. It's just how things evolved over time. But now is a time that we can fix that. I think that we need a truly diverse workforce that has different perceptions, different backgrounds, experiences, ways of solving problems, and the way that they even think about a problem and solution can come from this truly diverse workforce, whether that's veterans, the disabled, women, minorities, folks that may not have a college education, may not have been exposed to technology. We can teach them anything about technology and this other kind of language of tech, right? If they're curious, if they're passionate problem solvers, and if they're tenacious and don't give up, then those are folks that I can teach. And so I really want to, and I'm working on creating this platform of education to make it accessible. And there's one other little hiccup that we have to overcome. And that's the mindset that I'm not worthy, I can't do it. They haven't seen enough role models, enough folks who have actually done it to know I can do it too. And so that's the other sticky widget that we're working on, is to incorporate that emotional and psychological aspect to encourage people to say, yes, you absolutely can. You're definitely smart enough and you're certainly worthy. You deserve it.
That's a wonderful analysis of the real why behind what you're doing. And for anyone who exactly falls into the groups of the question, that is it right there. You said it best. So definitely rewind if you want to learn how to really just start a business. So to go deeper on just the learnings that you've experienced over the last 10 months. So you started 10 months ago. What have you learned along the way of actually implementing this, experiencing it, generating revenues, serving people, that has changed the way that you are viewing your life today?
I would say I'm a lot more confident in my ability, in my means of communicating this idea, this passion. I know that there are a lot more resources out there now that I wish I had known about from the beginning. I would have planned my spend a little bit differently, probably a lot of it differently, but not things that can't be overcome. So there were pieces of software that I bought, like Dice or other things that I just pulled the trigger on too soon, anticipating that I'm going to need this right away. So I just need to get this all lined up. It should have been a little bit more slowly implemented based on my ability to connect with, let's say, I wouldn't hire necessarily a group of recruiters or a group of salespeople. But what I did instead was look to my network to say, who can I outsource to? Who could I partner with? And that I should have done a little bit sooner and probably a little bit more robustly. I have some great partners. It would have just been probably wiser to do that a little bit sooner and not spend on software, but expand that network, that outsourcing in a slightly different way. But hindsight's always 2020. There's nothing you can't recover from. And I think it's definitely very wise if you are in any way, shape, or form like a woman-owned small business or an SMB, a small business owner, or a minority-owned business, or an economically disadvantaged business, you can have access to federal and state dollars if you are certified as such, one of these classifications, which there's a little bit of a hurdle of paperwork and time and an application to go through, but it's completely worth it. It will open up a lot of doors and a lot of revenue for you. We're talking tens of thousands, if not millions of dollars in federal spend. That's called set aside money, specifically for these groups of individuals. So if you classify or qualify in any way, definitely check it out. There's smb.gov. It's a great website where you can go, and there's tons of free resources there. That's the other thing that I think that I did was I went to a lot of virtual webinars, seminars, and learned a lot about business, how things function, where you have to go, how you navigate in this space, who are the contacts here, and it's worth your time to invest to learn about the space that you want to be in.
Excellent. And one thing to add there, I had a similar experience when we were growing our business is the different software tools, and imperfect action is what we call it, right? When you're going and you're doing things, sometimes you grab, or let's say a software platform too early, but you're always learning along the way. But the other thing that I want to touch on that you mentioned is that partnership and outsourcing model, because that is very key. If someone might look at, hey, I want to start this business, but I think my fixed costs will be too high, right? I have to go hire 10 people and do this and that. A lot of times, if with the right creative thinking, you can actually forego the need to raise capital or other things like that. If you just realize that there are other alternatives, there are people who have problems that you have the solution to, and vice versa, that are willing to help you on a much more effective basis. A lot of great
That's
wisdom.
exactly right. And don't be afraid to voice that. Here's what I'm working on. Who's doing this or who's doing that? That's something that I wish I had done much sooner. Something like this forum where you have these conversations, say, this is what I'm all about. Hopefully this message will get to somebody who's about X, that we may be able to create a partnership and help each other. And I think I was a little bit skittish putting that out there. Gosh, somebody might steal my idea, or I'm going to sound stupid, or people are going to think it's a good idea, or I'm going to make a mistake, and blah, 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 and that kind of doubt. But you know what? I can't control what anybody else thinks or how they feel. Don't worry about it. Just do you. That's what I needed to remember. That's where I'm at now.
And to reach in and grab anybody who's on the other side of this, there are people who want to experience your product or your service. There are more people who want to relate with you and interact with you. I'd say that's the number one thing that I've experienced over the last 2 years, and I'm sure that you could say the same, is those relationships that you build, the people that you get around, that you start to feel really, oh, there is this greater community that I can influence or impact.
That's right. And it's part of what you build by being out there and being that change. Wasn't the famous saying, be the change you want to see, be the change you want to make, live your life that way, and it will come to you and you will meet people, and don't be afraid to express your views. Yeah, okay, I'm a certified astrologer. I'm also into cybersecurity. Yeah, they don't really match up, but they do.
Exactly, but they do. The diversity of thought, as you mentioned.
Correct. Yep, right. It is.
Different ways of viewing things.
That's right. Just keep an open mind. There's no right or wrong answer to how to live your life. Just follow your intuition, follow your gut, and it really won't steer you wrong. We just put the fear aside. When I get really anxious about something, I start to make a game with myself. Okay, if then, so what's the worst thing that could possibly happen? Oh, I'll say something wrong. I'll make a mistake. I might make somebody angry or offend someone. Okay, so what? What are the consequences of that? That's not too bad. Okay. And that helps me put things in perspective. My dad always, greatest lesson he ever told me was, One, do your best every day. Even if you feel you did your best, that's the best that you can do. That's okay. And two was put it on the shelf, put everything in perspective. And the things you can do something about, do it. And the things you can't, put it over there. Either you'll get to be able to do something about it later, or maybe it's just something that's beyond the scope of your control. Why worry about it then? Makes no sense. So those are the two things I remember from my job.
And to apply the inversion technique to what you just mentioned, there's also the other way you could say,
Exactly.
and what if this goes right? And then intelligently, as you're going throughout your business, you're always able to start to structure the things that you do with much higher return than risk, right? You can cap your risk at 1. Okay, the person says no, but then your gain is 4 because, okay, the person says yes, and we build a great relationship, and then something awesome comes out of it. You can always look at different circumstances and situations if you have that risk reward model.
Right? Perspective. How are you looking at it? What's your perspective? That was a great reminder for me. Thank you, Jacob. I will definitely switch my thinking on that one.
Hey, use them both. But yes, you're welcome. So how has that learning allowed you to clarify your business offerings? I will say what you're doing is really great. It does have that genius element where you're going for the full end-to-end solution. You're not saying, okay, it's just fill the job. You have to build, you're building that pipeline, you're building people, which is really more of that giving element. And I'm curious also as well why you chose to do nonprofit as part of that, because it does incorporate that giving element. But how have all those experiences allowed you to clarify those offerings and achieve your growth targets and results?
So we had to switch our model to a profit model. There just wasn't a way for us to do it in a nonprofit model, at least when we're dealing with education and enterprise. There are some other things that we want to do that are in the works that could be and probably will be in that nonprofit scope. You're absolutely right. It is all about the end-to-end solution. And we sit in the middle and we say, all right, here's a student base. We have to attract those students, get them through the program, get them educated. And then we have that product, right? Our folks to marry up to companies that desperately need talent, whether they're an enterprise solution, whether they're government space. But the nice thing too is that we can make both experiences very customizable and teach students about the company's culture and help students become more quickly acclimated to that company and exactly what they're going to be doing on a day-to-day and customize that education a little bit. And I think that's really important to help both parties feel comfortable with that relationship and kind of help for the long term and help them retain the talent that they've invested in, and help the student stay longer and learn some additional skills from their new employer. So that's the model that it always looked that way, but the depth of it and the customization, I think, is a little bit of a twist that will be received really well. And I think too, just talking with a lot of different leaders and potential students and hearing what they want to learn and the environment that they like to learn in, that's when that sort of emotional and worthiness and that kind of psychological piece came to mind, and thinking we really have to help students feel comfortable asking those questions, feel comfortable saying, yep, I can make it through this program. They're not long programs, right? It's not years and years of your time, but it is a totally different career trajectory for a lot of folks. And that's scary. Change is scary. We don't like it. Our subconscious says, don't do it. We're doing just fine as we are. We're in survival mode.
We're staying
That's
alive.
where we're going to stay. Exactly. And our higher minds, I'd like to drive the bus now. So subconscious, take a back seat and take that risk on yourself. So if we can help students feel worthy, comfortable, and that they're making a good decision for themselves, their families, their careers, and employers say, hey, you know what, we'd love to reimburse you for your education. We would love to get you into some additional training programs that we offer in-house once they have a few of those basic certifications. Everybody wins at that point. It is a win all around for everyone involved. That kind of the general overseeing the whole battlefield mindset comes from just really thinking, how does every little tiny cog and spoke affect each other? And how can we make this machine run really smoothly and have everybody be happy and fulfilled? Is it possible? I think that it is. That's my dream. I want to change the nature of work.
Awesome. And then for everybody listening from an organizational perspective, to use the taco metaphor, I can't remember what company it is. I'm sure it's less of a metaphor, more of a meme at this point. It's the girl who they say soft shell or hard shell. And she says, why not both? And then she gets celebrated.
There you go.
The core thing there is about structuring of businesses. And actually, this sparked a curiosity in me. I went to a presentation with some friends years and years back. We actually ended up starting a business together. But the man said something about how you can structure your business to maximize your tax liability and things like that. And it was this presentation where they were clearly only trying to sell us. But that sparked this curiosity in my mind that got me going towards, what does that really mean? Like, how do you do that? And so what I want to add to what you said about the switching from the nonprofit to the profit, you could, let's say, structure the educational element as your nonprofit. Well, for your for-profit is more the service and products side of things. So perhaps that can spark some curiosities in people and realize that there are ways that you can incentivize and create models that are great for everybody. Absolutely. And I do believe everyone can be fulfilled as well. It's a decision. I think you would agree with that.
I absolutely do. And that's certainly something for me to look into. That
Yeah.
is not my expertise. So I picked S Corporation and I'm like, okay, we're going to go with that and that'll be okay. And here we go.
Yeah.
But certainly easy to circle back and ask more questions and get
And
more
then that's
expertise.
so powerful because I'm glad you brought that up, because I feel some people when they're going to start a business are like, well, I don't know what structure to pick. The thing is, you really can't pick an incorrect structure. It does depend on your goals,
Sure.
but really starting a business is a lightweight thing in terms of cost. And you're looking at maximum to do it very improperly, $500 down to, let's say, 170. But you can always either start a new structure or shift your ideally. I think it's better to start a new structure than to shift, and then connect those two elements as well. So
Absolutely. You can. Why not have one company as your umbrella and that one sits under the other and that can house your nonprofit? And there's ways to structure everything. And believe me, there are tons of people who know how to do it in the legal fancy way.
exactly.
You don't have to know, but just start asking some questions. That small business website that the government offers complimentary has a lot of great tools on there, and it'll actually help explain the different types of businesses, an LLC to an incorporation or an S corporation or a C corp or this, that, other thing, a sole proprietorship. What are your liabilities? What's going to protect you the best if something goes wrong, or what's going to help set you up for success and growth? There were reasons behind why I picked S corporation, but I think I like the idea of marrying that nonprofit in there. I think that'd be an awesome idea. So we'll check it out.
There
Thanks
you
for
go.
listening.
The learning occurs at every moment.
It sure does.
So one thing here, what are, just to give us like a 1, 2, 3 of all the principles and things we've talked about in order for you, what are those 1, 2, 3 principles that help you and inform your decisions on a day-to-day?
I had to simplify it down to 1, 2, 3. Gosh, not something that I thought about, and I probably should. I think it's what aligns with what I want to do, what aligns with doing the most good, right? What do I have the bandwidth and the resources to tackle today? And how can I make it fun? And there has to be joy in the journey. Why do it otherwise? And I think it's something that we often forget in the world of business, that it becomes very serious. And there are times to be serious, but there has to be a joy and a lightheartedness involved in it. And I think that's really important. What am I aligning with? What do I have the resources and bandwidth to do? And how can I make it fun and enjoyable? So I would say those 3 things are really everyday things.
Excellent. Now to focus more on how everyone can support you, we'll get to that in just one moment. What I'm really curious is, what is that number one primary goal that you're working towards for Phoenix Workforce? If there's that one North Star, hey, this is major accomplishment, next step.
So we are looking at what exact platform we want to use. And I need assistance with that content, that specialized content creation. I can go buy off the shelf content to teach cybersecurity or find folks to teach it. But what I struggled with is an expert who can marry that kind of emotional, mental piece in with breaking down the basics in technology for folks that don't have that exposure to technology in a way that's fun, engaging, and will help them walk away with a basic certification that's desirable by the community. So that's my goal right now, is to find those folks and then find a way to match that up with some funding. So I know that there are grants and things that are available once I get back from this wedding. That will be my number one focus, is to really find and see where we can come up and drive some funding so that we can get that happening. So I think it's super, super critical to get that going and show the business community that, look, we do have a group of students and candidates who are ready to start their careers. Let's go. Put your money where your mouth is. And
Right on.
and let's get your workforce going. And I want to follow up with all of the technology leaders that I've been working with and ensure that we've got the right types of certifications that are desired at this point in time. Everything changes so fast. But I think the basics that we offer, we start at some basic levels, and then we have some sort of middle ground, and then a few advanced offerings for folks as they progress in their career, is super important. So that's my focus post-wedding.
That's the big checkpoint.
Exactly. Also, I'll be finishing my book, and I'm excited about that. That is about this whole personal journey and awakening, and how entrepreneurship has tied in, and all the ups, downs, and everything in between. So I'm excited about that. I'm working with a group of great women who are telling their stories in their own chapters. So we have a collaborative project that will be published in September called Creatrix Expressed. And so we're looking forward to that. We'll be going down to Austin for our launch party, and you'll be able to buy that on Amazon. And soon to follow, hopefully, will be the rest of my story and our school getting online. So that's the.
And then to summarize there, people that should reach out, someone with first principles knowledge of cybersecurity technology, also merging into those psychological elements that you mentioned to form those next breakthroughs, the right mindsets for people.
Even if we have two individuals, I don't mean to interrupt you, but even if we have someone that specializes in that type of education and then that subject matter, and we can get those two folks to work together and work on this platform, that would be, I think, ideal. Please continue. Sorry.
Opening up the net. Someone listening should definitely.
Exactly.
And let's see. Also, to recap, they're investors, business partners, people of that nature who are aligning with your vision, which I think a lot of people can really resonate with that. And to really summarize from your perspective, what is the number one takeaway that you want people to gain from this video, from this interview?
I think the way that we can do the most good is to simply take responsibility for our own thoughts and our feelings. I think it all starts there. And we can, I think you, the listener, the viewer, can do yourself the most good and free yourself from this wheel that we keep getting stuck on over and over again. I just want people to feel a sense of fulfillment and to be happy. And I think that's the best gift that I can give in just one sentence. Just own your own stuff. You don't have to admit it to anybody. You don't have to confess. You don't have to feel crappy about yourself. Just give it all up. Just be responsible for what you think and how you feel. And you can. And if anybody wants to talk about it, they're more than happy to reach out. I'm always here.
Jen, it's been a pleasure to have you here on Titans Up Today. And again, for anybody listening that falls into one of those categories and wants to support Jen, please reach out. Other than that, take that number one takeaway. And for everybody listening, we will see you in the next interview.
Thanks, Jacob. Thanks, everybody. Enjoy your journey.
Hey everyone, thank you for watching this episode of Titans Up Today. What did you learn from it? Make sure to drop a comment below with your most valuable insight so that other people can engage in the conversation around what this speaker brought to the table. And then on another front, make sure to subscribe so that every time we drop a new episode, you will be notified And that way you can keep fueling your dreams and your brain with fresh insights, which can help you along your journey and along your path to your goals. So thank you so much again. And I look forward to seeing you in the next interview.